Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Teachers Tribe International Community. Today we have with us Anna Santhosh, an exceptional educator who has been part of both IB, PYP, and CBSE curriculum. Well, I believe that's make her a true asset to the field of education. She's currently working as a part-time inclusive support at Hull University, where she continues to make a positive impact in the lives of students. Anna is joining us from Hull, United Kingdom. Let's give her a warm welcome.
Hello, thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for such a beautiful introduction. Yeah, all right. So I think I can start doing my presentation, right, ma'am?
Yes, you can.
All right. So, what I want to share with everyone is to give an awareness about inclusive education that is happening in our place, in our schools. So I just want to give an awareness on that because I know being a special educator, I know like what is the need of special education, what is the need of having an inclusive classroom or inclusive education. So I just wanted to share some thoughts on that. So now let's discuss about creating an inclusive classroom. So first, before going further about this, I would like to discuss some aspects of special education. So now let's discuss the overview on special education and inclusion and practicality of inclusion in schools, and then the challenges and strategies that we can actually adopt to make inclusion a success in schools. So I know many teachers, many general educators are not aware of special education and inclusion. And there are many B.Ed, D.Ed graduates who are actually learning about inclusion in their curriculum. So I just want to give an overview on special education and inclusion. So let's move on to that first. Special education versus inclusive education. So, special education, as you all know, it is a specially designed instruction at no cost to parents to meet the unique needs of a child with disability. So, this is a definition by IDEA. It's not like IDEA SIM, it's not like what an IDEA surgery. It is Individual with Disability Education Act. It is for children, it is for people with disability. So this act is meant for individual with disabilities. So what it actually gives you an outlook on um, education of children with special needs. So students with special needs may often request support that goes beyond what is usually offered or received in the regular classroom settings. As we all know that in every schools, at least one or two students could be found need special attention or special education services. So, what is the duty of a special educator is that the special educator would offer additional special training to those children who actually have some disabilities or some additional educational needs to cater. So, before going on further into this special education, I just want to discuss some common misconceptions that we usually have regarding special education. I know uh, we all might have some misconceptions regarding special education that I just want to clear it out. So, for that, I have taken a small uh, clip, it's not a clip actually, a small picture or a screenshot of some misconceptions that we usually have among us about special education from a book called Special Education, What It Is and Why We Need It. If you read this, if you read this, you can see that there are many misconceptions. One such is those needing special education are mostly those who have intellectual disability. I just want to uh, inform you, I just want to give you an idea about this because now we never use the term retardation. Now we never say like intellectually retarded, mentally retarded. These are derogatory terms that we are not currently using in education field or anywhere. So mostly I think many of us have this notion or misconception that whoever goes to special education service or classes, they might be intellectually disabled or they have some issues with their IQ. It's not like that. It's just a misconception. If you look into this issue more deeply, you can see that most children with intellectual disabilities, they do need special education service, but it doesn't mean that they all have intellectual disability. It can be because of learning disability or because of some social or communication issues that they have. It can be anything apart from intellectual disability. However, it can be a result of intellectual disability also. It's not like if the child is into special education service or into special education, you know, it's not like the child is having intellectual disability. It can be a reason of any other disabilities. Another misconception that we usually have around us is special education is a place they put kids who are problems and don't fit in, and they are put in special education just so teachers don't have to deal with them. This is something we usually have a, a kind of a thought that we have regarding special education, but it is not like that, to be frank, because most students in special education are not there because they are problems, but because they have problems in learning. It's not like they are the problems, but they have problems in learning. So I have seen in many schools where I have seen what my special educator colleagues, they usually share something like this. They would share like, okay, see, they have sent one kid to my class just because of some disciplinary action, just because the kid didn't behave the way the teacher wants the child to behave. So they just directly send the child to my class saying that he or she has kind of behavioral issues. So special education is not for that. To be frank, if the child is actually showing some disciplinary issues or problems, it is not like the child is having some disabilities or any other behavioral issues. It could be a reason for some other factors. Some other, maybe the child is not feeling good today, maybe the child is moody, maybe the child have some problem with their family, or something could be there that that could lead to this particular behavior in that class. So please don't consider special education is for disciplinary actions or just to beat the disciplinary actions, or like just for kids who have problems, who are problems, not who have problems, who are problematic. So it's not for that. And another misconception is special education wouldn't be needed at all if general or regular education did its job well. Um, we cannot fully agree to this one. Do you think we can agree to this one? I don't think so, because special education would not be needed at all if general education did it so well. Because if you say it more accurately, you can say like general or regular education has to be designed for students who fall within a range of typical or normal development. Even if general education teachers are doing a superb job, they can't possibly be expected to deliver the special education that some children with disabilities need. So, this is a more accurate explanation for the misconception that we have regarding the above one. So I hope I'm clear to you all. If I'm going so fast, please do let me know so that I can really take care into that. I can just go slow if you want, because it's my first presentation, so I'm a little bit tensed. So that's why I'm just going a little fast. If you have any doubts, please ask me in between it so that I can clarify. If I know the answer, then I can clarify it. So yeah. All right. So now, what about inclusion? So now we have already discussed about special education. Right now, it's a specially designed instruction that we give to children who have disabilities. Now we are going to discuss about inclusion. I hope you might have heard the term inclusion. Inclusion means to give an inclusive environment to include everyone. So I believe this is what our schools are focusing on, like to provide an inclusive environment to all children based on education for all. So now let's discuss inclusive education. Inclusive education means all children in the same classroom, in the same school, even if they have disabilities or not, they should be sent to normal schools. They should be taught in the same classroom with other children in the same schools. It means real learning opportunities for groups who have traditionally been excluded. Not only children with disabilities, but speakers of minority language too. So I took this from UNICEF. So this is all about like no children should be secluded, no children should be excluded. Everyone should come together, everyone should brought together in a same environment where everyone should have the access to education. That is what this is about, inclusive education. So when I discuss this, some of you might have questions regarding the practicability of inclusive education in schools, especially in India when we have different curriculums like CBSE, states syllabus and international syllabus. We have different syllabuses, syllabi that we have in India and in other countries. So when it comes to talking about inclusive education, the practicality of inclusive education, we might have a lot of questions to answer and to find the answer. However, all means all, in which all children, irrespective of disabilities, must be educated in mainstream school classrooms alongside their peer group to promote full inclusion, but without even considering the concerns of teachers and the stakeholders in addressing all the diverse learning needs. So I took this from a book called Inclusive Vision versus Special Education Reality. I, if I want, I can just literally talk about inclusive education. I can just give a theory class about inclusive education. It's really easy for me to do all those things. But when it comes to a practical aspect of inclusive education, I know we are suffering like anything, because it is easy to just say that everyone needs education, everyone should be in the same classroom, every irrespective of their disabilities or their language minorities, we can say like that. But as teachers, when we look into this inclusive education, we know that somehow somewhere we are not able to fully practice inclusive education in schools. I don't know how many of you agree with me, but I have seen this. This is the reality because I have seen that, I have witnessed this. Because sometimes it may be really difficult for us to give the same learning environment, to give the same learn to expect the same learning outcome from every children in our classroom. Sometimes we might not get this expected learning outcome from children, from our children. So it is not like inclusion is possible. It is like somewhere or sometime it may not be possible to give a full inclusive environment, learning environment to students in our classrooms. So what do you think about inclusion? I just want to know what you think about inclusion. So let's ponder some questions regarding this. I have just sorted some questions that we usually have when it comes to uh, thinking about inclusive education. So, is it an uphill task to practice full inclusive education in general schools? Are you able to address the diverse learning needs of students in your classroom? I really want to get the answers for these questions from you all so that I'll get different perspectives and different answers to this honest feedback, to be frank. Are you able to meet the expected learning outcomes from students with different abilities using your pre planned unit plan or year plan or the curriculum? Have you ever thought of any strategies or plans to overcome the above issues. So I have heard from my colleagues, okay, my previous colleagues, that sometimes they feel like it is an uphill task for them to practice full inclusion in their classroom. Sometimes they may feel like they are failing. They may feel like they fail to impart inclusive environment to their children, and sometimes they fail to receive the expected learning outcome or learning outcome from the whole class. So they have lots of issues when it comes to practice inclusive education, full inclusive education in classrooms. So I just want you all to just go through these questions, and if you have any comments on this, please do share with us so that we will discuss about this in the further sessions, so we'll have some clarity on this. So I know, to be frank, to be open, it is quite difficult to impart full inclusive education practice. Yeah, it is not easy, yes, to be frank. I just don't want to give a full theory on inclusive education, because it is really easy to just speak about inclusive education like that for a long time, for so long, but it is really difficult. But if you have proper planning and proper procedure to follow, we can actually try to practice inclusive education within the curriculum that we have, with using the structured plans that we have. We can actually make it possible. It's not like it is not at all possible, but we can make it possible for successive inclusion. And now let's look into these three aspects. The first one is what we teach, the curriculum, and the second one is the way we teach it, our teaching strategies, our teaching methods. And the third one is how learning is to be demonstrated, how the learning to be demonstrated. It could be the assessments, or it could be anything that related to how the child would be able to demonstrate his or her learning. So the first one is what we teach. The curriculum is very important, because the main focus of inclusive education is to modify or accommodate or adapt the curriculum to meet the needs of the students who have disabilities, who are in need. So the second one is the way we teach it. It is very important that we need to find new and innovative strategies for children in need, for the students who have disabilities or in our classroom. Because if you have, for example, if you have 20 students in your classroom, two or three students may have may need special need attentions, or special focus in their learning, may have disabilities. So it is very important that you pre-plan certain teaching methods before the session, so that you can actually deliver what you want to teach them in a way that is quiet, that address the students needs. So it is important that we need to look into the curriculum, the way we teach it, and how learning is to be demonstrated. So if we are able to look into these three aspects, somewhere or other we can actually implement inclusive education in its fullest. So now I just want you all to just go through the yes and no columns given here, that that is actually asking you the question, is it inclusion? So the S is about inclusion, and the no is about it is not inclusion. So I just want you all to just go through the S and no part, I mean the S and no sections, so that you will get the idea about inclusion. What is inclusion? What it really talks about. So if you see, I have highlighted one section there, is just because I just want to let you know that the child's paraprofessional facilitate access to the curriculum and classroom activities. So The other one says the child's para-professional determines access to the curriculum and classroom activities. I just want to highlight this. Para-professional facilitate access and determine access. These are, they have two different deep meaning, because if the inclusion to be possible, the child's para-professional should facilitate access to the curriculum and classroom activities. If the child's para-professional is the one who is determining the access, then it is not inclusion. So if the child is spending the majority of the day in the general education classroom, so that is a part of inclusion process. But if the child spends the majority of the day in a special education classroom and goes to general education classroom for 1 or 2 periods, then it is not following full inclusion. So just look into this yes or no, yes and no. So you will get to know where your school is actually, what your school is following right now. Is it a full inclusion or still in the integration process? Integration, inclusion is the advanced form of integration. So if your school stands here in this no part, then I think your school or our school is still in integration phase, not into inclusion phase. So this would be good if you can have a look at this yes and no, and just determine whether you are following full inclusion or not. And inclusion is not possible or effective if the educators believe the barriers reside within the student and the student must overcome those barriers. I really like this one because it really captured my mind when I was reading this book. It really captured my mind. This is something which we need to keep in our mind, that inclusion is not possible or effective if we, the educators, believe the barriers reside within the student, not the environment, the other environment. If you believe that the child, the student you teach have the disability, I mean, have the difficulty to access education or access the learning environment, then we need to just remove that notion from our head, because it is not that. It is the student must overcome those barriers. uh, this is something which we need to just get rid of our brain thoughts, because if we believe in this, then inclusion is not at all possible, or we cannot make inclusion effective, because it is not the student who is the actual barrier, who has barrier. It is the student. The surrounding should be changed for the student to access the education in an inclusive classroom, not to change the student. I hope you got the idea. It is not the student who has to change, but the environment around the student. It could be anything, the curriculum, the teaching strategies, whatever we have said in the previous slides. And if it is something like that, if the child is not able to enter to the room because of the stairs, then you have to find an alternative solution for that. If the child has a difficulty with physical mobility, then you have to find an alternative source for that. Not the child should be seated somewhere else because of the child's disability. It should be the surrounding environment, the barrier surrounding environment that should be removed. If you look into this picture image, you can see there are three images given here. I hope you might have come across this diagram, this image somewhere in your training period, or somewhere in other presentations or seminars. So I hope you all know this one. Here we can see that the smallest one and the tallest one. If you look into if you look the first picture, you can see that there are three boxes of the same height, so they are not able to view the show properly, and they have given equality to all regardless of individual differences. They have given equality. That means they have given the three same boxes. just to stand on those box and to view the show. The first two are able to view the show, but the third one not able to view the show. So they have equality. Literally, they have equality. Both the three of them have equality. But the thing is, still, the smallest is not able to view the show. When it comes to equity, providing equity to all considering individual differences. When we consider the individual differences, the tall doesn't need any box to just view the show. So the box is given to the smallest one and can see, and the smallest one can view the show. But again, here we cannot say like maybe the smallest one might feel that they have provided me some more safe side, to have to view the show, or some kind of low self confidence or low self esteem because of uh, what the society has been providing to the smallest one, just to get the equity, just to have equity. But it could all be like considering the individual differences. But the actual thing is, it is not the three people who are standing here should be changed, but the surrounding. When you if you see that this is the barrier that uh, these three had when it comes to watching the show. But when they removed that barrier, when they removed the fence, they are able to view the show without having any other props or anything else, just sorry, anything else to view the show. So that is what, instead of changing or instead of changing or modifying or like adapting these children to the environment, it is always better to change the environment so that they can have equal access to whatever they are actually facing or they want. So it's always good. So here you can see the fence is removed, and here they are able to view the show without having any other, without changing themselves for the show. But the environment has been changed. This is what we need to follow when it comes to inclusive education. So educators must move from thinking about how a student's impairment limits their access and participation to instead consider the barriers that surround the student. So this is how the educators must move their thinking. So it is not the student's impairment that limits the student, but the surrounding is something that actually hampers the student or limits the student. So we need to consider of changing that surrounding to accommodate the student's need, instead of changing the student to accommodate the learning environment. So educators must change this thinking pattern. I hope you all know this diagram. You might have seen this diagram before. This talks about exclusion, segregation, and integration inclusion. This talks about the history of inclusion. We had an exclusive environment first. If you go back to the history, you can see at first that students were segregated and they were uh, placed in separate schools, completely different from what the other children had the access to. So they were being completely separated and everything was separate for them. So they were like another community. The students with disability, they were placed in another community. But later that changed. Integration, you can see here, this those who were once separated or segregated from the normal community, they've been included with others. You can see here is the process of placing with disabilities in existing mainstream educational institution, as long as the former can adjust to the standardized requirements of such institution. See, they have been placed in that mainstream schools, but the students with disabilities should adjust themselves to the standardized requirements of the institution. So we cannot say it is a full inclusion, because here the student have to adjust, not the surrounding environment, whatever it is, like the curriculum or the learning strategies or teaching strategies, the lesson plans, nothing. It's just the students have to adjust themselves. They can sit in the class, but it's not like they will get the full learning. They can actually get the full learning, just like how the peer groups are getting. And later, inclusion, a concept emerged, and it is a process of systematic reform, embodying changes and modification. You have to, uh, this is a main sentence actually, this is the main thing. It is a systematic reform embodying changes and modification in content, teaching methods, approaches, structure, and strategies in education to overcome barriers. See, this is what inclusion is all about. So it should be like the student is not the one who has to change or adapt or adjust. It should be the other factors that actually act as barriers to access the learning, to access education, just like their normal peer groups. So when we are able to look into all these factors and do something related to this, do something or change or accommodate or modify all this, we will be able to impart inclusive education, like, not even if it is not possible to impart full inclusive education, that is okay, but still we can actually follow inclusive education within our classroom. So uh, I got this idea from one of my lecturers from my university. I'm a student here in Hull University. I'm doing my masters, if you know. um, you might know that. So one of my lecturers, she shared this idea, like this was what she has been practicing in USA. In the school she was actually working before, like 30 years before. So she was sharing this. She was sharing that if the inclusion should work, if the inclusion should work 100%, then a trained teacher and an SEN teacher should work collaboratively as co-teachers and plan and deliver instruction accordingly inside the same classroom without even revealing the designation of the SEN teacher. You should not reveal that, oh, she's an SEN teacher. No, it should be like there are two co-teachers in the same classroom and they are delivering the same instruction and to the same group of students without even segregating one group or without even dividing the groups into two, where one group with children with disabilities and one group with normal children. It's not like that. They all sit together and have learning together. But there should be a trained teacher and an SCN teacher to work together. That's what the collaboration of teachers should be there. They should they should plan and prepare the lesson or the unit, whatever they are teaching, the content prior to the class, so that the SCN could advise the trained teacher that we need to include all this kind of things, or like you need to make a change in this one so that the X student can access this, so the Y student can access this. So if we are able to give advice like this, if you are able to adapt or accommodate or modify the lesson plans or the teaching strategies, or coming up with new teaching strategies with the ideas of SCN teacher, and if you're able to work together as co-teachers, not like max teacher and SCN teacher, not like homeroom facilitator and SCN teacher, but together as co-teachers under the label of co-teachers and able to deliver the session together. That is what full inclusion is about. So that no one should feel like, okay, that SCN teacher is not talking to me. It's not to me that they are giving the session. It is like they feel more inclusive, like they feel they are all included in the same classroom, and it's not like they are divided into groups. uh, and even if you are giving education to students, even if you are practicing um, inclusive education, we say that we are practicing inclusive education in our schools, but just consider this one. Just like how I said before, if you have an SEN teacher in your classroom who is teaching students who are in need, students with disability, in a corner in your classroom separately, the same concept that you are teaching separately in a corner in your classroom, it is not inclusion. To be frank, it is not inclusion. Even though you have an SEN teacher with you in the classroom, but the teacher is again divided the entire classroom, where one group is receiving special instruction and the other group is receiving instruction in the normal way. If this is happening in your classroom, then it is not a full inclusion. To be frank, again, this is a part of integration. So to have the full inclusion in practical, then everyone, irrespective of their disabilities or language minority or anything, like they should come together. They should be the same learning environment, learning the same curriculum, I mean learning the same teaching content, and everything should be like they should be accessing everything like how the other children are accessing. It should be all together, not like separated. Even if you're, even if it's in the same classroom also, it should not be separated, it should be together. But even you can just divide the class into two, and the teacher can just change the subject and teach. If the one group is learning about learning science, the other group can learn math. But again, they will be rotating this groups, so that the one who had math session will be having science session, and the one who had science session will be having math session. But there will not be any segregation in in the content they are learning. There will not be any separation or like differences in the content they are learning. They are all learning the same thing. So that's what my tutor, my lecturer was actually sharing when she was talking about inclusive education. So I was actually thinking that, when I had this session with my tutor, I was actually thinking about how we used to have in our schools back in India, where I think we are still in the integration process. We are still in the integration phase. We haven't achieved the full inclusion yet. That's what I think. Because we know economically to have two trained teachers, like one TGT or PGT plus one SED for every classroom, may seem quite expensive to afford for some schools. Because I know how it is. Like, it is not possible to have a SEN teacher for every classroom along with uh, one trained teacher, because it is quite expensive to for the schools to afford two teachers in every classroom like this. However, I think if our school is not able to afford a pattern like this, what I have just shared, what we can do is, the one thing we can do is just to plan before the beginning of the academic year during teachers collaborative year unit planning time. So in that time, if you include this SCN teacher along with you, I think in many schools, I think in IB schools, they will have this workshop for teachers prior to the academic year, to the beginning of the academic year, where they have sessions with the teachers, and they will plan and set the year plan and unit plan, everything that time. So in that time, you can actually have a discussion with the SCN. Teachers of each class can have discussion with SCN to modify and accommodate curriculum and teaching methodologies based on students' learning styles and needs. It would be very good, it would be very appreciative if you are able to give chance, if the leaders of the school could give a separate session, a separate group session for each class teachers with the SEN to discuss to discuss and prepare the unit plan or year plan based on to address the needs of all students. Then I think we could uh, actually implement inclusion in our classrooms. So that's what I feel. You may have some other ideas or some other planning plans, or you may have other ideas regarding this, but this is what I feel we need to follow in our schools to implement inclusive education. And remember, inclusion is not a one off process, it is an ongoing process. It's not like, okay, today I have actually tried a new teaching strategy for a student with ADHD in my classroom. So this is a part of inclusive education. Now I have completed that. It is not ending there. It is not stopping there. It is an ongoing process. It's not like you can follow the same strategy throughout the year, throughout the week. It should be changing. It should be innovative. You have to come up with new strategies, innovative strategies, or adaptation and modification of the curriculum. It is not like I have done this in the beginning of the academic year. We have sat with the SCN teacher, we have discussed, we have planned everything. Okay, all right, everything is set. So this is inclusion. No, it is an ongoing process. Somewhere or like in the sometimes you might have to change the plan in between, like in the middle of the academic year, because sometimes it may not be addressing the students need. Some plans may not be addressing the students need. So in that case, you will need to reconsider what you have planned and what you have already made plans to have inclusive learning in the classroom. So it is an ongoing process. Please don't think that, okay, I have already set everything with this SCN teacher in the beginning of the academic year. That means inclusion is done. No, it is an ongoing process. There can be changes, there can be modification, there can be readjusting, reconsidering. These are all part and parcel of inclusive education, because every student is different. You cannot expect you cannot expect the learning behavior which you feel like, okay, which you think the student would show in the classroom or exhibit in the classroom. It's not like that. There are cases where you will get emergent learning outcomes from students, so which you might not have thought while planning the unit plan or lesson plan, whatever it is. So it is all, inclusion is an ongoing process. Keep that in your mind. All right. Now let's look into some interesting facts. I just want you to just see this picture, to observe this picture. I hope you can see the picture and just think, okay, what you can see in this picture. If you ask me the question, then I would say I can see stairs, I can see some shelves and some books there, and staircase. I feel like it looks like a staircase. So many staircases are there, and it looks like some corridor part, right, of a school or institution, whatever it is. You might also feel the same. You might also think the same. But this is a school without walls in Denmark. This is actually a school without walls. When we think about schools, when we visualize schools, what comes to our mind is a four-wall classroom with a single door or two doors within a classroom. But this is a school without walls in Denmark. So the main aim of the school is to foster an environment in which student and teacher together are jointly responsible for learning, that heighten the sense of ownership, which some research suggests could strengthen students' desire to learn, is one of the many facets of an educational approach called personalized learning. So I think this the name of the school. I'm sorry if I'm wrong. I think the name of the school is Hellerup School. So if you just Google and see in browsers, you can see this one, a school without walls. If you just Google it with the title "A School Without Walls in Denmark," you will get many images of the school design and architect and plan, where you can see the children are free to learn anywhere. Like they can sit and enjoy and relax. Like they can learn at any place they want, and they can choose the way they want to learn. The learning style and the learning environment is so relaxing, and if I get a chance to go there and study, I would definitely make use of that chance, because we all love a relaxing environment like this, to learn in our own pace, our own way. so that it gives us the ownership, voice choice, ownership. I think you are all aware of that. So the students also feel a sense of ownership, which some research suggests that this can be called, like, this can be a part of personalized learning, which is really effective. And I know, uh, maybe to have this kind of classroom setting or the school setting may not be possible in our country, but still, if you can let your children sit in an open space in your school, or somewhere like they feel like least restricted environment, instead of sitting in the same classroom for a long time, you can just take them to somewhere else, like outside of your school, or in the corridor, or the in inside playground, or whatever you have there, a free space where you can just bring your children there with some books, with some with some what do you say, like, with some books, papers, pens, and like some digital devices. If you can take them to that particular space, least restricted environment, they will just enjoy learning. You should not even instruct them what to do. You will just give the main uh, focus or main aim of that particular day, like that particular class. Like, okay, if you want me to give an example, okay, I took my class. Suppose I'm a homeroom facilitator, and I'm taking my classroom to outside to outside ground, and I'm just telling them, you have 30 minutes. Okay, that's our time. So what we are going to learn is about nature. All right, so you can do whatever you want within this space. i I'll keep all the learning materials here, like the charts, pen and paper, or some digital devices, ipad, or compute laptops or something like that. You can keep everything somewhere near safe place, and you can tell the students, we are going to learn about nature. Now it's your time, enjoy your time. So the children will take that ownership, they will have the sense of ownership, and they will find the way to learn about nature. And in the end, you can discuss, you can have a feedback from your students, what they have learned, what they have done when they got a topic like nature. So they might have interesting facts to share with you, and thereby you can actually facilitate their learning. So these are all a part of personalized learning, which you could actually implement within the limited resources that you have. Um, I really wanted to show you this video. Let's have a look at Montrose School, which provides a positive, inclusive learning environment that ensures quality teaching and engaging learning experience for all students. It's a very long video. So I really wanted to show you a clip of that video where how they are implementing full inclusion in their schools. So you will get the link there in the comment section. You can just go through after this presentation, because we are running out of time, and I want to give you a good I just want to have a good session with you. So you can watch this video afterwards. So it's a good video. It's worth watching that video. Please watch that video when you get the time. And accommodation and modification, I don't think I need to explain further about accommodation and modification. Accommodation is removing learning barriers in the classroom to provide every child with equal access to learning. For example, offering an audio version of classroom text for students with dyslexia, or offering a tab for for students with dyslexia so that they can type. That's an effective strategy to follow. If the child is making mistake while writing, you can just offer a digital device, a tab or an iPad, just to type whatever they want. So, modifications are changes to what a child is taught and expected to do in a class. That is modification. Accommodation means you're accommodating the environment for the child. Your strategies to help a student with learning needs access the same curriculum as his peers. But modification is a strategy used to help student with learning needs achieve the same curriculum as his peers. The access and achieve. something which you need to look into. So please go through this accommodation and modification and see if you can can implement this in your classroom or not. And this is just for your awareness regarding accommodation and modification, because I have heard that many have doubts regarding what is accommodation, what is modification, are they same, are they different. So these kind of questions would arise. So you can just have a look at this. I got it from Reading Rockets article. So I should be mentioning the source because that's how it should be. All right. So to create an inclusive classroom, I really want to talk about the 13 disabilities that we have under IDEA. Okay, not IDEA SIM, it's IDEA, Individual with Disability Education Act. Okay, all right. But due to our limited time, I would love to discuss some common disabilities that you might have come across in your teaching life. So the one is ADHD, and the other one is autism spectrum disorder, and the other one is learning disabilities. So let's see how we can create an inclusive classroom for these three disability, those who have disabilities, these three disabilities. All right. So for children with ADHD, how can you create an inclusive classroom for them? There are lots of strategies for that, I know, but some are like, attention deficit hyperactive disorder. So there are two issues in that same term: attention deficit and hyperactive. If a student is diagnosed with ADHD, maybe the student have attention deficit. Maybe the student is not hyperactive. But in some cases, the student could be hyperactive, but not like very hyperactive, but not like always down, not like always calm and always moody. It's not like that. It differs. All right. So, what you can do to create an inclusive classroom for ADHD students is like you can have structured and organized classroom environment. Please, I know that we all follow this thing in our classroom, that we all have a structured and organized classroom environment where you have a reading corner, we have math session, English session, and you have a reward chart place. I mean, reward uh, session for reward. What is that? Okay, reward board session and everything for your class. And maybe you have some other corners for your learning. So make sure that you follow structured and organized classroom environment. And the other thing you can follow is giving rules and expected behaviors prior to the section, including positive reinforcement. So before commencing your class, what you can do is you can actually let your students know that, all right, this is what I expect from you all, not from X or Y student. You are giving instruction to the whole class, so that nobody should feel that what the teacher is instructing, she is pointing only that child. It should not be like that. Inclusion means inclusive, like we are including everyone together. So when you are giving rules, and when you are giving some instructions, it should be to everyone. But in your mind, in your thought, you are actually focusing those students who have disabilities or needs. So when you give rules and when you are expecting that from the students, you can just instruct them like, so this is what I expect. Before starting the class, I want you all to sit in your place. If you want to roam around, you have to raise your hands. If you have any other needs, you can just give me a cue that raise your hands. Or when I give you a time, a structured time, okay. So for example, I would say like, okay, today we are going to write an essay about your favorite animal. What I expect you to do is write a paragraph about your favorite animal. After writing that, you should be raising your hands. That shows that you are finished. And you should be sitting in a place without talking to each other. So these are the expected behaviors from the students. If you're giving a clear rules and expected behavior cues to the students, The ADHD, whoever the ADHD students also have this understanding that even if they're not listening fully, but still they know that these are the expected things that my teacher expects from me. How do I know the expected behaviors if the teacher is not discussing that with me? So this should be there. And in between you can give physical activities or warm up activities for the entire class. You know that sometimes the ADHD children are very hyperactive. They just cannot control their hyperactivities. So in that point of time, at that point of time, what you can just do is, after commencing your class, after 10 minutes of your class, you can just tell them to stand up, raise your hands, jump, sit. There are many warm-up activities that you can get from YouTube for students. You can just give that to the entire class, not just to one particular student. And everyone will feel happy and relaxed, and they will feel like, okay, we are enjoying this warm-up activity session. So that the a student with ADHD could also be a part of this, and can actually uh, uh, you know uh, give out the energy, the over energy that the child have. Then the other one is explain the content in a nutshell before the actual instruction. This would be very good if you could actually implement this in your classroom, because you know that they may have attention deficit. So it's not possible for them to just concentrate in the classroom for the law for at 1 hour. Even that is not possible for us also to listen to some sessions for an hour, or like for 40 minutes or 30 minutes is really difficult to regain your attention or keep your attention. So it would be good if you could just explain the content in a nutshell before the session, so that at least the child knows that, okay, these are and this the teacher is going to do in the class. For example, if I say like, we are going to do addition. Addition is the sum of two digits. All right. So we will be doing addition. After that, I'll be giving you classwork, and then we will end the class with some homeworks. Maybe the student is listening to that, and uh, if you ask at the end of the session what you learned today, maybe the child would say that addition. Maybe he doesn't know the in-depth part of addition. Maybe he is not paying attention to the exercises that you have given in addition, but still he knows that you are dealing with addition, sum of two digits. So it's always good to have that kind of explanation before the session. And multisensory learning, I know we all have this learning in our schools where we are using different, we are making use of our visual, auditory, and our kinesthetics senses and everything to impart interactive learning, and giving small breaks in between the session, and dividing the main task into subtasks for the whole class, and ongoing parental communication and interaction in the learning. It should be really, it is important that you maintain a parent ongoing parental communication with students, with the parents of uh, ADHD students, so that you can actually inform them these are the things they have learned, their learning journey. You can actually inform and keep them updated about that. Um, so I just want to see, do we have enough time to play this, ma'am, Anila, ma'am? Can you talk right now?
Um, how long is that video?
It's just 2 or 3 minutes. I just want to show them like how the age student with ADHD is included in the classroom. So,
I think you can forward and you can show.
okay, all right. How to show this one? Mm, okay. S I think I'm not able to. Sorry, because I'm not able to play this video right now. Mm, sorry for that. I'm not able to play the video. All right. I'll do one thing. I'll just share the link of this video so that you can see how a student with ADHD is like. included in the classroom and have the inclusive learning. So we can share that link in the comment section later so that you can just go through that video and see how it is. And now, talking about ASD inclusive classroom, autism spectrum disorder, again, same clear structured instructions and picture cues, providing less stimulating classroom environment without bright colors and noises and everything. Clear and consistent lesson schedules or routines. I think you might know that autism students with autism, they love to follow certain repeated patterns or a routine. So if something happens, if there is any change happens to that particular routine or the pattern, they might feel disturbed or get they might feel anxious. So it's always good to have a clear cut routine or schedules, and to follow that in your classroom so that the child also feel uh, secured, and child also feel very relaxed and can have can sit in your classroom and enjoy the learning. And extended time and space to complete their assignments and homeworks. And again, here also, it would be good if you can just divide the main task, learning task, into subtasks so that they can do with adequate intervals in between. So allow intervals and appropriate rewards for completing each subtask. That would be really good if you could just provide that, because they need motivation, they need appreciation. So if you are able to provide that uh, without any change in that, it would be really good if you could provide that rewards or reinforcement to those children, especially when they complete the subtask, when they are able to complete the subtask or the main task in the classroom. And give time to fidget and relax when needed. You cannot just tell the ASD student that, oh, please stop rocking on your chair like this. Please stop running around like this, because you cannot, because they are forced to do that. They are compelled to do that. That is something which is actually like making them to do it. They can, maybe they are not able to control it. If you are actually inhibiting that, if you're actually resisting them to fidget, maybe that would create a tension in them, and they will become more aggressive or violent in the classroom. They may uh, exhibit some undesirable behaviors in the classroom. So let them have the time to fidget and relax when needed. And creating visual boundaries in classrooms. So if visual boundaries in the sense that if you are able to um, visual boundaries could be with anything, like with a tape or with any like picture cues or picture images, anything. If you're able to create a visual boundaries in a classroom, that would be really good. For example, if I want my children to stand in line, but a student with ASD is not able to follow the line, or doesn't know where to stand or where to keep his position, then what you can do is you can just take a tape, a color tape, and you can stick on the floor where they are supposed to stand, like one behind the other. So a ASD student also could follow this instruction, because he is seeing, he gets to know that, okay, this is what my teacher wants me to do, because that is there. He can see it, he can feel it. Don't give more abstract instructions or more instructions that is really hard to comprehend for the students, because it would be good if you could inculcate more visual instructions than uh, just talking or just giving oral instructions. That would be really good if you could just inculcate more visual cues, instructions for students with ASD in your classroom. And if they have communication issues, if they have difficulty interacting with you, what you can just do is give them some picture cues. For example, if they want to go to the toilet but they are not know how to ask you for the permission, but you know that the child is actually wanted to talk to you, you can just give the child a box of or some picture cues that you usually use in the class. Like, for if you want to go to the toilet, you will raise your hands. Or if you want to eat something, then you will show the picture of apple or in whatever it is. Or if you want to stand up, then you will show the picture of a student standing up, sitting down, this kind of picture cues that you can use and show the child and ask them what you actually wanted to convey to me through these pictures. So the student can choose the picture that he wants to convey to you. So if the student wants to drink water, then he will pick that picture, or else you can do it digitally also. That would be really great. If you have some picture cues in your digital device or ipad or tab, that could really use in the classroom to communicate with children, with ASD children who have communication issues. So in that way also they can actually communicate to you. All right, so before giving anything, before giving any instruction, before teaching anything, please aware them that this is going to happen in the classroom. This is what we are going to do in the classroom. This is how you're supposed to behave in the classroom. Otherwise, it is really hard for them to comprehend what you are teaching in the classroom, or it is really hard for them to think and behave, because they need proper instruction before that. For ASD, it is always before. It should be in your mind before. If you're doing something, if you're going to do an action, you need to give clear cut instruction before that. If you want the child to behave in this way, you have to give a clear cut instruction before that to the child, so that the child would also understand that this is what you want to do. I hope I'm clear to all. And it would be better if you find the main interest of student in academics and non-academics. If the student is more into using digital technologies, you can boost learning using the digital technology. If the student is more interested in cooking, or if the student is more talkative when it comes to science subject or something related to dinosaurs, I have seen many students like that. They talk a lot, they are very knowledgeable in certain aspects of uh, subjects, certain aspects of disciplines, like science, math, or any other thing, maybe current issues that we are facing, or maybe general knowledge or anything, English subject, anything, it could be anything. If you're able to find out the main interest of the child, just enhance that, just motivate the child to use that more to convey to you. So with ASD students, you know that they have social and communication problems. So what you have to do is, you should not go directly to the child and touch the child first. You should not go, hi beta. Mm, all right, so it's always good to have that kind of in conversation. So dyslexic inclusive classroom, you can see this one here. I'm so sorry because I'm explaining a lot here. I just wanted to communicate more. I know that we are running out of time. So you can use these strategies here for dyslexic inclusive classroom. And for example, I have given here k. If I want to teach k sound, I have shown the image of cat, k at. So in this way, dyslexia students can learn words and connect the words and the sounds together. So these are all some strategies that you can use. If I want to give an example of a writing instruction, I can use this kind of writing instruction along with images that could connect them to the instruction. So these are all some examples that you can follow. If you're finding your children with some behavioral issues, we can follow these strategies. It would be here in the video session, so that you can just go through all those things. Maybe you are already using all these things, but remember, every student is different. All right, so you have to come up with new strategies. Same like social and communication, I've already discussed with you. So yeah, that's what, I don't want to elaborate more. And so thank you so much. If you have any doubt, any questions regarding inclusive education and strategies, if you want any help, you can directly contact me through my mail ID, which is given here. All right, sorry, I forgot to put G here. Okay, Gmail, sorry Anila ma'am for exceeding the time, because I was just keep on talking about the, yeah.
Thank you, Anna, so much for your knowledge and expertise. And I could see so many educators around here. They were all active, they were asking questions. In fact, I would like to pull out one question which was asked by Divya. Just hold on. I don't know whether it's going to make sense now or not, because it was asked in between the session.
All right.
Uh,
So sorry, I didn't see that coming, because yeah.
Can you, no, this was by Rosie. Can you please explain about the research perspective on inclusive education?
A research perspective on inclusive education. What she wants actually wants to know about the research. a perspective of inclusive education. All right.
That's right.
So that's what even I am also doing right now, because I'm also planning to do a research on inclusive education. And I, I what is her question is about, like, is she want to do a research on inclusive education, or like she wants to pursue some studies on that? I'm not clear about the question. Sorry.
If you can, Rosie, if you're around, you can ask the question with better clarity. You can just
Yeah, please.
elaborate so that we are able to explain. And all the educators here, Lakshmi, Anju, Sri Lakshmi, Rosie, Pooja, Nidhi, Divya, I could see Purini, Palash, Nimi.
Everyone has a question.
No, no, these were the people who said hi and they were appreciative about the session,
Oh, thank you so much.
and many more, and many more actually. But
I'm
I'm
really
just
happy to share my knowledge. I mean, whatever experience I have with you, but I just want a clarity on the question that Rosie asked, like research perspective. In what way? Like, is she want to do any research on that, or she just want to get more idea about inclusive education? That is something which is really confusing for me right now, just to answer. So, if I get a clarity on that, I could really, regarding to research perspective, you oh, thank you so much. Regarding research perspective, I would say like you have lots of options to go, because I'm also researching on inclusive education, and it is something like a deep subject to learn more. And I know, you know what, even though I'm a special educator, but I still feel like I'm nothing, you know, when it comes to special education, because when I research more on special education, all I could see is like what I am right now is not the level that I have to be. Like, I need to go further that, because I'm just in the middle of the sea. It's not like I am the sea. So
yes.
that is what, it's really good field of education. If you can just if you want to be a research graduate on special education and inclusive education, it's a really good field that you can explore and learn more. Even I am also planning to do my research on inclusive education towards my first studies. Yeah.
All right. To acknowledge your contribution, we would like to present you with a certificate of appreciation.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Yeah. Is there any other questions? If anyone have any questions or queries, you can just ask me. This is my first session, my first presentation, so I think I took more time, but sorry, because I have lots of things to share with you all, but the time is the main villain here. So yeah.
Thank you so much and congratulations to all the participants here. If you want to earn a certificate of participation, I had already shared a link here. You can fill it up and earn the certificate. That's all for the day. And thank you once again, everyone. I hope you had a wonderful insight and got a lot of ideas for your teaching practices. See you next week.
Thank you, ma'am. Bye, take care. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity.